Hey y'all, I'm Brett Manning,
And I'm Noah Henson.
and you are listening to the Singing Success Show. And my special guest here, I have been friends with for like 11 years. I've known you for 11.
Yeah.
But like we've been close, like
Like
bros,
bro
like
close.
bro, like blood brothers. Well, we don't do that because I might catch this COVID.
Yeah.
That's when you're like
I've
willing.
only got COVID-18 though, so you're good.
18. Oh, that's better than me.
One
Better
less.
than my COVID 14. It's like, he's
no.
four better.
Ooh.
So anyway, so Noah first moved here 2009, right?
Yeah, 2011 actually.
But you were
I
here
think I met
for a
you
little while.
in 09 because we were tracking that record. Or 08, 09.
Oh, you met me in 08 and in
Yep.
09. Remember, because we had that barbecue at my house, and the family lost their house in a flood, so I let them come stay at my house for a while.
Yeah.
I used to have a rather large domain, and got a little small, cute little place,
I'd walk in and be like, "Can I move into the closet? That would be great."
A 6,000 square foot closet, it was big. 7 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms, but I don't care. I'm a little happy in my little 2-bedroom thing. I got to upgrade, but
I got to upgrade.
a little bit. 3, maybe 9 seems high. Christopher Walken. I'm not good with numbers. Well, I don't know. What do most people say? I really want to win that car. You ever hear him say that? He goes, no, he goes, how many people you got to live in? He goes, I don't know. I'm not good with numbers. How about 80? Seems high. And he goes, well, just count. He goes, I got myself, my wife. We have plants. We've got candy bars. And they go, we don't count plants and candy bars. And he goes, I guess then we only have 2. I guess I really overshot it with the 80. It's so funny. Only walking.
Only walking, man.
Only walking. So anyway, what are we talking about today with you?
We are talking about. Can we cut real quick, by the way? Because was there something I was supposed to say when you introduced me, by the way? I thought.
No, you're cool.
I looked over, Dustin was like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "Oh no."
No, you're cool. We're perfect.
Cool. Back to the thing. So what's this here? That's also something.
That's something we're gonna be talking about later.
All right.
Right here.
Yeah. Top 3 ways. All right, cool.
Okay.
Well, today we're going to talk about the top 3 ways to gain label interest. Pretty much anywhere, California, Nashville, Chicago, New York, wherever, or wherever you are in the world.
So, what are those top 3 things?
Well, that's a broad,
Question.
small question, broad answer. To me, in my experience, I would say just to put it bluntly, 3 top things that stick out to me would be your fan base, and I'll come back to that as the most important thing. Your songs and your work ethic. There's really a number of things that you can identify with success, I think, when it comes to label interest, or even just doing it independently. But work ethic is the number one thing. I think when label people take interest in an artist, they go, okay, well, what sort of things is he doing? That immediately go to his site or social media and see, what's he doing? Where's he touring? And then, I'm not in any particular order, but the most important thing to me is the fan base, because a fan base can buy you attention, so to speak, from numerous different people, including booking agents, label reps, even endorsements, people, things like that. But if you've got a solid fan base going in, like let's say you've got even 30,000 or 40,000. That's on like Instagram or Facebook, that'll pique people's interest. They'll go, okay, they got 30, 40,000 people who are interested in their indie, so that's pretty awesome. Let's say you've got over 100,000 on social media. and these are all real fans, not bot fans, just absolute real, because they can, they have ways of researching that.
That's right. Interaction, by the way.
Yeah, and I mean, and it translates, man. I mean, if you got the fan base, when you book a show, even if it's just like at a, like 1,000-person venue, if you sell it out, that's immediate bargaining chip, But the other thing is, if your fan base is massive, and let's say you've already got a solid career moving in the right direction, and it translates too. Some people I know have massive fan bases, and they don't ever even consider a label because they don't need it.
Right.
But it just depends on what you want. If you want to be the most famous and you want to be the most just
if you want to be massive.
If you want to be massive,
yeah,
there are certain limitations in the independent world.
That's right.
At least in my experience,
yeah,
anything's possible. People break through with new ideals all the time, and in all actuality, it's the people who break through with new ideals that change things. Because there's a standard, right? Until something different happens to change the standard. But, the other thing is the songs, So it's kind of like the perfect storm. If a label is interested in you as an artist, or even slightly interested, there's a spark happening, they look, okay, what's their fan base like? And unfortunately, it's not as much about the songs as the fan base, but it is too, because they can go, okay, cool, man, they got a huge fan base, right on. Well, they got good material too. We can do something with this. Of course, a lot of label heads will think to themselves, well, if they don't have good songs, we can give them good songs.
We can find good songs.
We can find good songs.
That's why it's really not necessary to have written a great song to get a label deal. But like you say, that's part of that social media. Like you say, they work at it every day. They show up for their social media. They put out their personality.
For sure.
And that je ne sais quoi, I, they say je t'aime, that means I love you, right? I ne sais quoi. I don't know what. What? I don't know what. I can't really put my finger on it. And that's it. We know people like that. Like, Homeboy is definitely a good singer. And by the way, Noah played for the band Pillar, if you haven't read it in the liner notes, and played it for years, and they were a number one band several times. How many number ones you guys have?
Oh, about 11 or 12, I think.
One loses count after a while. You get in the double digits and like
after the first one, everything.
No, yeah. But they were the second most behind Skillet, second most
I would say
high selling a Christian rock band, and now he plays for
of the 2000s. Because like the 90s, you had your Petras and those guys were huge in their day.
But as far as that style of rock,
right,
that you're doing, the heavy rock, the second of all time behind Skillet, and Skillet barely passed you up because you guys are not doing records anymore. You still kind of one off every now and then. You always be a band, even in spite of not being in the band, right? If I understand right. And then also Noah plays for Brantley Gilbert, we can't count his number ones.
Nope, he's got lots.
And we're going to do another podcast where you're going to talk about that whole. Yeah. Where we hear your whole story. Maybe we'll have to flip these. I don't know, but but going back into that, Rob Beckley, he's a great singer. He's got a cool rock voice.
Yeah,
but he's je ne sais quoi, doesn't he? He's just got some charisma on stage.
Yep. It's the perfect storm, like you were saying. Like it's all kind of it's all objective. For me. Those top three things we were talking about are probably the most important. Your work ethic, your songs, and your fan base. But perfect storm, you were talking about image. Your look. If you happen to be a really good-looking human being, that could be an absolute plus. Just because people like looking at pretty things.
They do.
So it's all subjective. But I think the perfect storm of events that can happen. Obviously you put in good looks, you put in like, hey, you can also play an instrument really well. That's cool because, like some of the greatest singers, like Freddie Mercury, dude could sit down at a piano and he was like double sexy. He's
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, the dude can sing. Oh my gosh, you can play the piano too.
Yeah.
So that's a plus. Like back in medieval times, the greatest armies were usually led by their king, and he also had a sword in his hand.
Yes.
So, when you get up there, see a band and you're like, man, that band is killer. Whoa, that singer can also rip on the guitar. Wow, he just earned way more respect in my book. But I mean, these things are not so important, but yeah, as the three.
The leader doesn't say, guys, do as I tell you. Leader says, I'm leading. That means out in front. I go out in front. The front man, the singer, is kind of the scariest place. And you've known singers who almost like tuck back in the band, like, I just want to. No, you need to be out in front leading. Everybody knows the things that go into the song is basically a well-written, well-structured melody and lyrics. And a melody is time and height. It's dimensional. It's the note that's either up or down and within a certain time. So a melody, you can take a melody that's pretty good, and as we were working together with an artist, pushing and pulling, squashing certain words, making them shorter, other words making them longer to adjust the phrasing of that melody to make it better. So there's things you can do when you get a song that's almost great, and then you can change lyrics. Even in the studio, you've done this before. Like, hey, you know what? I don't like that word. I think this is a better word. Or it's not a current word, or it's an awkward word.
Right.
Some people can get away with
awkward.
it. Awkward. Oh, I like that. See what you did?
All right.
Rim shot, where's my love? You bring a good song in there, but there's so much that happens with production and so much that happens with the voice.
Right.
A great voice can sing the phone book, and you'd be like, this is compelling.
Right.
Wendy Moten could literally sing the ABCs, and you'd be like, this is the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life. And then there's some people that you give them the greatest song ever, and you're like, stop vomiting on this song. Mm-hmm. That's a term you've heard producers use, and I know that sounds harsh, but that's what I've heard people say, man, this singer is vomiting on my tracks.
Vocal vomit, as we
Vocal
call it.
vomiting.
Another one.
Yes.
Just creating all these catchphrases, man.
So there's that. You got great song, great voice, and great production, and I mean, if this sounds like a paid endorsement, it's not. Unfortunately, I'll just get coffee. That's all I'll get for it. He makes a great coffee. But seriously, as endorsing him, there are only like 5 producers that I absolutely love in Nashville. Ed Cash, who's going to be on here. My friends, the Monsiváis Vice brothers, moved out, and they're one of the coolest indie brothers. They just really got a great thing. Noah Henson, and the other 2 I'm still deliberating because, but these are my big 3 that I always go to, and Noah has so impressed me on this last pop thing that I'm thinking, who knows that you're this type of producer? But for you, music's just music, right?
Right.
It's just music. Doesn't matter.
Like an artist with art.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I think just as musicians in general, obviously, we can. People can pigeonhole us, especially being in the rock world and then the Christian rock world. Mm-hmm. People automatically pigeonhole you. They see me up there headbanging, slinging my hair around, like rocking, sweating, and like doing everything rock and roll. And it's funny because they automatically just kind of, and I'm kind of, I'm a character too. I'm a goofball. I like to have fun and goof around. But in all seriousness, music is literally the thing that makes my blood rush through my veins. I think about, I think about my family. I think about providing for my family, and I think about music, and that's pretty much it. And of course, God at the top there.
Yeah.
But for me, it's just like walking into a. It's like, for instance, you go, to the zoo. It's like, well, there's a bunch of different animals here, but it's a zoo. There's a bunch of animals. I'm coming here to see a bunch of animals. I'm not coming here to see just the lions. I'm coming here to see the tigers, too, and I'm coming to see some, I don't know, cougars. They got cougars there? Yeah, they got cougars.
Yeah, cougars. We got cougars.
I'd like to think of myself as like a musical zoo.
Yeah.
But like a musical zoo, man, it's like, I want to do it all, and so I actually, I try to verse myself in all styles of music, especially pop. I mean, pop is a huge style of music, and everything is heading that way, more and more. I mean, even you got metal bands now that are incorporating pop into their metal music. I mean, if you'd have told that to an '80s rocker back in the '80s that one day his music would turn into pop, he would have had a conniption. If you would have told me 10 years ago that I was going to be playing guitar for a country artist, I would have had a conniption.
That'll be on our other podcast.
Yeah.
Our
I mean,
story.
it's like, it's just, the thing is if you close your mind to all styles of music, and you only focus on one, then you will get pigeonholed. But it has been a large step for me having to prove to people that I'm not just a rocker, that I can do country, that I can do pop, that I can do blues, I can do R&B, I can do whatever you put in front of me. And I say that humbly,
Yeah.
but I try to keep myself well versed in all styles of music.
Any musician who's been at it for a while, we all have some kind of ego. We got to have a little bit of ego. I mean, it's not so much there's ego and there's confidence, but sometimes it's a fine line. So ego is like, I'm never going to learn this
Ego
piece.
is kind of not knowing your limitations. And at times,
Thank you.
At times, though, and it's such a balance because I've worked with people with egos, I mean, bigger than the room we were in, and I'm like, I can't be in here with this guy.
Yeah.
But I always find a way to make it work, no matter what, because I mean that's part of being a producer. Is a push and a shove, or like a pull and a push, and it's like going back and forth, and it's like knowing when to give and when to push. And sometimes, sometimes it's a balance of like, it's almost psychology. There's times when I'm working with somebody, I'm like, they're not really open to a lot of the ideas I'm pushing. So I got to find a different way to approach these things, so we'll keep going and going and going. And then I'll just let them, throw all their ideas at me. I'll throw them all down and then I'll go, okay, and I'll hit play. If we're listening back and they go, ooh, I'm like, so I got, you don't like that? And they're like, no, that's weird. I'm like, okay, I got an idea, and sometimes you got to do that. And sometimes you work with people just, no matter how much crap they deliver, they still think it's the best. So then it's on the backside, it's a balance. So, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about this purpose. We've talked about the song. We've talked about the songs. We've talked about the socials. In other words, your fan base. And we talked about the songs. Let's talk about this third point a little bit more.
Which goes hand in hand with all of them. In fact, I think those three that I mentioned personally are like a trifecta, because the work ethic will eventually lead to a fan base. You've heard artists that were like pretty good, some that are huge. Sometimes it's because a label just was like, yeah, we're gonna pull them on, and sometimes if you push garbage enough, a bunch of times, people eventually will eat that garbage. That's just the simple factor of music in general, because music is such a universal language, and people always like, you hear something. How many times have you heard something and you're like, that's not great, and your buddy's like, this is the best thing ever, and you're like,
yeah. Oh,
I don't want to tell my friend that I don't want to be his friend anymore because this sucks so bad.
The same chord progression that you hear a million times. Like, look, there's a certain movie that you hear this all the time. You hear this. Oh, so I'm sorry. I'm gonna figure this out next time. Which you heard 6415 over and over. 6415, hope you dance. If I were a boy, too late to apologize. 6,000 other songs, and it works. It's really well. But I saw somebody come in and goes, yeah, I wrote this song. Got these really cool chords. She's going. And it sounded good. It was. It's a good thing. The ear likes that 6415 and the 1564, which is 1564. Tons of Ed Sheeran songs. 1564.
Right.
What's this song? I'm getting tired and to save me. I
Yeah.
need somebody to hear, somebody to trust, somebody to say, somebody to love. It's
Yeah.
that. It's the simple 1564 C G A minor F, and it's a cool song. But like you say, when people think, I've done this thing, is really genius. I mean, for our ears, like, man, can you give me something a little bit different? And it's important that you realize that you may actually come up with a number one hit, and it's just three major chords. Chris Stapleton's best song, in my opinion, is not even close to Tennessee Whiskey. It's The Drunkard's Prayer. And he plays it so simple. He just hits this nice, beautiful E. And, E on the guitar just rings so well. There's so many riffs you can put there. And he bends this note coming into it.
Right.
Boom, boom. He says, when I get drunk and talk to God, I tell him all the things. I tell him sorry for all the things I'm not. I'm like, yeah.
Man.
I heard that last summer. I tried to learn it, and I was like, I can't get through this. This is so rich. Three chords, one of the best songs. He goes,
Yeah.
when I get drunk and talk to God, three simple songs. Great work ethic, great production, great fan base, and then sometimes the simplest, stupid song.
Yeah.
And it's not the most known song,
No.
but for me,
Man, it's the conviction.
Yeah.
In his voice.
Oh, I seen him walking by with his guitar, just another guy, and suddenly I see him on this show. I'm like, Chris Stapleton is big. When did he get big? And you've seen that too.
Yep.
I mean, there's so many people we've talked about earlier podcasts that I've hung out with, and they used to call me, "Hey man, can you hook me up just a quick little warm
Yeah,
up?"
and he's
it
a
blew up.
perfect example too of like, I mean, because the songs he sings are not, they're not big modern country pop radio songs.
Yeah.
But that's a perfect example of a guy because he was he in this town 10 years writing huge songs for like Luke Bryan and some other cats before his own thing ever blew up. I think that's the dream too, man. It's like he gets to write these huge epic radio songs with all these other artists, and then he gets to do his own thing.
Yeah,
When he's on stage, he gets to do the thing he really wants to do.
that's right.
Yeah.
Let me give him this lyric. He says, when I get drunk and talk to God, I tell him sorry. I say I'm sorry for all the things I'm not. I mean every word I say, and I promise I can change when I get drunk and talk to God. Oh, that's so good. I mean, it just gets you right away. And you hear him say, when I get drunk and talk to God. I mean, that's that first night. You're like, just even his lick. I have said, and this will surprise you, if you've not heard this particular song, and go back and listen to it, I think it is the most soulful song recorded in modern Nashville history.
Wow.
In modern Nashville history, I can't think of a more soulful song than this. And soulful doesn't mean you got, that's not soul. That's tricks. Tricks are not soul. I think Coldplay has way more soul than a lot of divas who can just do good. Pentatonic patterns. Great. They're not even that interesting. It's just you're fast. Good. You're fast, but it doesn't make you good. A lot of guitar players who can have so much ridiculous speed, but you don't want to hire them. You'd never hire that person. If you can't slow down like Gilmore and bend a note beautifully, you know what I'm saying?
It's like,
Or
to
like
me,
Noah.
Soul is when you can literally manifest your spirit into a song.
Ooh.
It's like, it's not just singing. And I mean, we deal with that on the daily with artists. They'll be, and you're like, oh man, they're going off. That's
right.
cool if you're drag racing. But I just want to cruise around town, man, with your voice. I'll tell you what, it's songs like that. Like, I produce a lot of radio, country, pop, rock. But I'm always thinking, radio, because that's what people want. They equate radio with success. Mm-hmm. So if we can get their songs on radio, that's cool. the songs I love the most are songs like this one.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had people come into my studio, you know, when we're talking about working together, and they sit down and play me 2 songs, and I'm like, those are great, those are cool songs, man. Those will be radio. And I'll be like, you got anything that'll just like rip my heart out? And it reminds me of the scene in Walk the Line.
Oh
Where
God.
he's like, I got something else, and he just starts singing. And they're like, where did this come from? And Johnny Cash is another perfect example of a guy who didn't necessarily have the greatest voice, but his conviction was so grand and huge that you couldn't help but be just absolutely like sucked into his music, man.
Mm-hmm.
But when somebody pulls out a song like that, if I've even, and sometimes it's like, that's the song it takes for me to see that they've got what it takes.
Oh yeah.
The one that just rips my heart out, because that's the one that makes me believe in them. To know, like, okay, dude, we can do anything with this guy. You know, it's like, you know, if you're a Hyundai, own it. If you're a 350Z, sorry, 370Z for all you millennials. About to be like a 400Z, my son says. I don't know. Own it. If you're a Ferrari, own it. The cool part about a Ferrari is you can drive it slow too.
That's right.
But it's good to know you can always hit that top speed if you need
More
to.
under the hood than you.
But I need to know before anything that you can cruise.
Yeah.
You know, before.
Yeah.
And so me as a producer, that's the thing, because if you've got a voice that can absolutely just grab me by the ears, we can do anything with you. You know. But all that being said, going back to the work ethic thing, you know, like Nashville, you know, I've met a lot of people who are like, man, I think I could do it, and I don't have to move to Nashville. I meet people who are like, I'm moving to Nashville tomorrow. And there's a healthy balance. If you can get here often, that's an important part. But the work ethic goes hand in hand too with songwriting with numerous different writers, and that's also how you get great songs, is by writing with different people. Now, that does not to say that you can't do it on your own. I mean, Freddie Mercury would sit in a room by himself and create songs that no man in history will ever even get close to.
True.
Again, I mean, I say that lightly because, you know, there's always somebody who comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I have yet to see them, but, you know,
Yeah.
maybe they're coming. But that work ethic goes hand in hand with, when I was working with Kane Brown, that kid would drive to Nashville from Chattanooga. He'd get up at like 5 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
I mean, he was 19 or 20. And I just was thinking, like, dude, like when I was 19 or 20, somebody had to drag me out of bed to make me go to work. Sorry, bosses, if you're watching this from when I was in my teens. Seriously, it was bad. But dude, Kane would get up at like 5 in the morning, drive to Nashville, and be doing a session at 8 a.m.
Wow.
And he would do that. Like, I mean, of course, he'd usually, he'd stay with other people. He'd stay with me sometimes, if he's doing sessions and stuff. But he'd go write, and then we'd get in the studio and produce the stuff he was writing.
Because so many people tell me, oh, Kane, that guy just popped out of nowhere. He just kind of showed up, and he's pretty, and he just sings. And I said, I kind of know the guy who discovered him and built that voice and built that career, I should say. And I mean, he came in it with a voice, and I've had a chance to train him, and so's Benny, and he's got a hard work ethic, and like you said, and you brought this guy because he was willing to meet your work ethic. If he's going to
work ethic in the face, because I didn't even know yet, and my wife had already booked him in the studio for me before I had even known that. Like, she was like, I found this kid. The short of it is, I got home from a 2-week run. I was absolutely exhausted. My wife was like, as soon as I walked through the door, she's like, hey, I found this kid. Or she's like, a lot of the fans and other people are kind of talking about this kid. There's like a buzz going on. And I talked to him because he was just like doing videos like in his bedroom or wherever he was. I mean, he'd be walking down the street, he'd shoot a video of him singing or something. And, and he had a fan base. It was a small yet strong and large, even large at the same time for his size at the time, fan base. And when she showed me this, I was like, at first I was like, babe, I'm tired. I don't want to think about anything. And she's like, just shut up and listen to him. She hit play on a video that he did singing in his house, laid it on my shoulder, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then I saw his face. I was like, oh, he's pretty. He's pretty too,
Yeah.
you know? And I was like, and then like, sure enough, I went and I looked on his page. I'm like, this kid's got 100,000 followers already. And these were just followers he built from YouTube and stuff. But it wasn't like a massive buzz, but it was like a buzz that it got my attention. Mm-hmm. So I was like, dude, oh my gosh. I was like, babe, I need to get him in the studio. She's like, already done. He'll be here on Saturday at 10 o'clock in the a.m. He's driving up from Chattanooga, sure enough, you know. And I was like, oh my gosh. So we worked on it. We sat down, wrote a song together. We were just kind of goofing off, you know, just getting to know each other. But we wrote a song that ended up going on his first EP.
Which charted at what?
It went number one. Yeah.
It went number one. That's
when
the
he was
beautiful side of it.
First week, it hit
without a record label.
Yeah. I remember having a conversation with Scott Borchett about him. Yeah.
Wow.
In fact,
had a big machine, by the way.
Big machine. Yeah. And then he texted me one day. He's like, guess who's interested? I'm like, Big Machine. He's like, how'd you know? I'm like, well, you know, talk to the dude.
Yeah.
But, you know, and then of course, you know, he was, you know,
everybody
the more he came
wanted.
to Nashville, everybody wanted Kane, man.
Yeah.
That was such a cool scenario, man. I'm so proud of that guy, dude. He's done some amazing things, you know.
Tell me about how, tell me a little bit about here. A final thought would be, let's talk about, you know, all the work that goes into prepping to making a great song. Then you make a great song, and then some people think the work is over. Talk to me about rehearsals.
I don't know if we got time today.
This will be a different podcast where we just talk about rehearsals, that whole process.
How about in a nutshell? I'll give it to you, and then we can talk about it. You know, coming up, because the next one we do, we'll be talking more about the touring world anyway. You know, kind of the Brantley Gover stuff and Pillar stuff. But you know, I get artists who are fully developed. I get artists who are green. I get artists who are coming out of nowhere, like Kane. Mm-hmm. He hadn't. When I was working with Kane, he had never performed a show, not one. Now he'd sang in front of people with a mic in his hand, but he'd never like performed a show. And I remember talking to his management, going, "Hey man, you know, like I've never seen him perform, so you know maybe we should get him with Tom Jackson."
Yeah. Sup, Tom?
Sup, Tom?
Bad dude.
Who's the man at performance coaching? And of course, you know. He's evolved, and you know, Kane's evolved into his own thing anyway. So, but there are times when I'm working with somebody who has zero experience in performing, and then so in the recording process, there's times if they're that green where I'm like, okay, just remember, you got to do this live. Mm-hmm. So whatever we do in here, I mean, if you got to drop it, you know, a whole step and a half step, whatever, to do this live and to do it well. Because man, the reality is we can give you great songs all day long. We can produce great songs on you, but that's another thing. If your performance doesn't translate to your music, doesn't translate to who you are on the record, people aren't going to believe it, you know. But that also translates to the voice. Yeah. Which is where you come in. Because
this is where I come in.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Times you've done that scale. How many times you've done that with
what scale was
you? The Rossini scale.
Yeah.
1,
Rossini.
5, 7,
I
1.
do it every day, you know?
Rossini, yeah. With you and all your artists, and you just roll them through the CDs. You used to have the old CDs. I think I got you all the streaming access now, but you practice with them, you warm up with them, then you go in there, and if you're warmed up, you give a pretty good performance. But it's the same thing that I was talking about with our fellow brother Dustin about how, you know, when you're in the back, you're warming up, and I'm sure before the gig, you don't just put on a guitar, you get those fingers loose, and because you get there and they can feel sticky.
Normally, I'll eat Cheetos And I just lick my fingers and I go up there and play. No, I'm just kidding.
I was like,
It's like,
hey, you please be joking. Please be joking.
They're
'cause you've
organic
stolen all
Cheetos,
my
okay?
thunder.
I'm
So,
just
well, anyway, we're going to have Noah on again, probably somewhere between the time 2 and 30 times, somewhere between that.
oh,
many
heck, I'll
times.
just come on every
Just
day.
every time. We need this. We eventually will be a daily podcast. But today, we're real excited to have him here. What an honor! What a great musician. My best description of the first time I heard him really play guitar on some production, because you play what it needs, and that girl said, "Well, rock it out a little bit." So you did that song, "Isn't Enough." Alexandra, she's actually reached out to me. She's like, "I'm ready to do music again." Well, of course, because you have a perfect voice. You remember, you're like, she can do anything.
She was, 16 when I worked with her?
Yeah. She's
And I called you. I'm
22,
like, you didn't,
23 now.
you didn't, I was like, you didn't tell me she could do that. You're like, I wanted her to surprise you. And I was like,
Yeah,
holy crap,
she can do anything vocally. But you had this kind of thing, and it's like, no matter what I do, it's about talking to her best friend. Like, nothing I can do is ever enough. Was enough. You criticized. I turned my hair from blonde to black. You criticized me, so I turned it back. So like, and there's nothing I can do, and it's a lot of sarcasm. And you had this lick that kind of said na 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 on the guitar, and it was like the guitar is talking. So I don't know if she ever released that. If she did, I'm gonna be mad about it. But I could probably talk her into sending you an MP3 if you want to hear that. But go online, listen to. You produced the Wicked Game with the Drew Hale Band.
Real band, yeah.
The mind-blowing, beautiful soundscapes. And who else are you really excited about right now?
Well, our LA girl, we can't really talk.
Oh, we
about
can't
her
tell
yet,
you. We got a best kept secret.
Yeah.
Let's just say whatever Mariah Carey did back then, this girl's doing that now.
Yeah.
It's
absolutely.
insane. Tons of voice.
Yeah, modern, up to like today production pop with that voice. It's
pretty insane.
I'm excited. I mean, honestly, I'm excited about all the bands I always that
Yeah,
I
I know. You
produce.
put your heart into it. You're not like,
yeah.
I'm going to leave somebody out, and they're like, hey, what about me?
Right.
You didn't talk about me.
The Drew Hale stuff, man. That guy is like he's more in the vein of like Stapleton. Mm-hmm. As far as his sound, he's kind of got that almost like southern like red dirt with a slice of radio, just a little slice. Because he's just that guy. He's like, man, I don't need to do anything except what I want to do, and that's awesome. That's a great place to be as a musician, being content with where you want to be.
But those guys had that work ethic. They worked
absolutely
their butt off, and
do.
you worked your butt off on that production. When you listen to it, you just go on a drive, listen to it through great stereo. If you don't have a great stereo, get great headphones and listen to that thing. And
the legendary Vance Powell mixed that record, and then Pete Lyman mastered that record.
Okay.
So, like two of the Nashville greats.
Yeah.
You know who I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
no wonder. But still, those soundscapes that you produced was just amazing. And I'd be embarrassed to tell them how many times I've listened to that. But it's like one of those songs that you show everybody. Say, listen to this. And they go, oh, I'm firing my producer. No, you don't have to do that. Finish your thing. But be thinking about your next project and stepping it up, because not everybody can afford you. You're not cheap, but you get what you pay for. So,
absolutely.
Anyway, it's good to see you, and I'll see you in the next podcast. And thanks for tuning in.
Yeah. Peace.